How's it going? So, I want to start doing some blacksmithing. I've got myself a forge. I do not have myself an anvil. So, let's make an anvil. Alright, for the heart of the anvil, we're going to use hardox 450. Now, you would have commonly heard of AR 500, which is abrasion resistant 500. Now, 500 or 450 is actually the Brunel hardness rating, or HBN, I think. It's actually where they have a little ball of tungsten and they just press it into the steel, and the size of the divot is the hardness rating. So the smaller the divot, the harder the plate. Hardox is actually the Swedish brand that makes a very high quality abrasion resistant plate. So referring to this as hardox is actually just referring to it as a brand. So this is abrasion resistant 450. The reason this is such a good material to skin an anvil with is the more we hit it, the more it work hardens and the harder it becomes, while still maintaining that toughness, which means it won't crack. Now there is a bunch of welding hygiene that we're going to have to go through to make sure that the welds don't crack welding to this. But apart from that, yeah, I'm very excited to be using such a hard material that's got such an application all around the world. Right, let's start drawing this up and we'll start making ourselves an anvil. Alright, I hope this is starting to make a bit of sense now. We've got ourselves the base plate. We've got ourselves two rails that will hold up the top plate, our horn, as well as our back section, which will have a square cutout for tooling. Now my biggest concern here is that this internal area here will act a bit like a bell and create a bit of resonance, and we do want to keep the ringing to a minimum. It's already going to be noisy enough, so keeping that in mind, we'll start working on these back plate and the horn, I guess. Right, what we're doing here is making the horn. Obviously we're using a grinding disc, so we're going to take off a bunch of slices. It's the fastest way to remove material. Then we'll come in with the grinding disc and do the final shape. We could forge this, but for my first forging piece, I'm not going to be forging a horn. Yeah, I think we'll be pressing my luck to make a square, so we'll use the grinder. Right, so that's the horn cut out now. I used 6 cut-off discs just to cut it. This is the piece that I had heating up in the forge, and I tempered it, or quenched it, before when I was doing the furnace video, and I guess I have hardened it. So that took a very long time. Now we're going to work on the base plate that we mount to the table. So we're just going to drill out a bunch of holes, and then we'll cut in with the grinder just so we can slide bolts in. Right, so we've got all the parts cut out now. We've got ourselves the back piece here with a nice square cut out. We've got the horn, we've got the base plate with all the grooves cut out, as well as the rails. Now when we come to weld this, we're going to turn the welder right up. We want a deep, hot weld. We want a nice bit of penetration. We do not want these welds cracking or falling apart. Now when it comes to welding the hardox, there's actually a procedure you need to take to ensure that your welds don't crack. And that is preheat. You need to preheat between 150 and 225 with the thickness I've got. Once you've done that, weld it up as fast as you can with all the parts, and then you need a post heat. Now post heating is actually just keeping it at that height, that 150 degrees, and letting it really slowly cool down. This is so it doesn't crack, obviously, and you just want those stresses to very slowly relieve. Yeah, hope that makes sense. I've got the furnace next to me already preheated. It's got the bit of hardox in there, sitting at around 150 degrees already. Weld this whole base plate together, so we're only welding the hardox last, and then we'll drop it straight back on the forge. It doesn't actually fit inside the forge, but just sitting on top, hopefully there's enough thermal mass there so it does cool off over the next few hours. Anyway, let's crack on. One bloody hot weld there. Now when you tack something up, if you just tack the two sides, it's just going to peel back and pull out a square. So when you do a tacking, you want at least 3 points of contact. But in my case, I've got 4 corners. I'll tack all 4 corners before I even start doing any seaming. Right, so we've got the plate out of the furnace now, and it is thoroughly preheated. Now we should just seam it on, add our plates to the back and our horn, and put it back in and let it cool overnight. Right, let's get on with it. Right, so the anvil is now in the furnace. Well, there's enough thermal mass here for it to stay warm overnight, or at least for the next 2 hours. This will give the welds time to cool down slowly and let everything equalize. So hopefully nothing will be cracked. Right, I'll see you tomorrow. Right, the anvil's cooled off overnight. I can't see any cracks, but there might be some micro cracks that we obviously cannot see. Now what we've got to do is knock off all these welds that protrude, get everything nice and flat and flush, so we've got a nice smooth working surface. We'll clean up some of the corners as well, so there's nothing sharp, so if this, if I fell on it or hit my head on it, you know, I'm not going to, you know, cark it. So I'm just pre-planning for my clumsiness, you know. Anyway, let's get the grinder and clean this up, eh? Right, so we've got the anvil nice and made. Now what we need to do is make ourselves a stand. Now obviously this is quite perilous, so we need to make ourselves some feet for this stump that may look slightly familiar, and then bolt this down and we've got ourselves a workable anvil. Right, I can confirm this is unideal. I kind of in my head was like, yeah, we'll just cut straight away, everything will be nice and square and level and flat. Yeah, everything's way off, so I guess we'll kind of just wing it and clean it up and make it look pretty. Right, so we've got the anvil all mounted up and rigid as it can be on uneven ground. Let's turn this little piece of steel into a square. Right, to the furnace. Oh, broke the hammer. That's always good. Well, it's becoming a square. Right, the anvil's worked fantastically. The stand held up perfect. It didn't move or wobble or anything. The hardox 450 was, you know, fabulous. Like, I can't even... I thought it was going to mark, but there's no wear markings or blemishes. Like, nothing you can feel with your fingernail. The edge did roll over, but that's where I missed the piece I was working on and hit it with the hammer. So, you know, it is what it is. It's hardened steel hitting hardox, so something's got to give. My hammer fell apart and the tongs didn't work very well, so that's something I need to upgrade in the future. What I made was this little key. That's what drops in that little square section at the back of the anvil, so we can insert like a chisel tip or anything, so we can part bits of steel off. It's just something we can do in the future. So overall, I'm so happy with how this has performed. I'm really impressed with the hardox, and yeah, I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.